Chalian, I want to play for you this exchange that occurred at the White House press briefing just a little while ago. We'll discuss.
Obviously, sexual harassment has been in the news. At least 16 women accused the president of sexually harassing them throughout the course of the campaign. Last week, during a press conference in the Rose Garden, the president called these accusations fake news. Is the official White House position that all of these women are lying?
Yeah, we've been clear on that from the beginning, and the president's spoken on it.
She said, yeah, we've been clear on this from the beginning. So she's insisting that all 16 of these women are actually lying.
Yeah, they've been insisting that, the president has, or then candidate Donald Trump, and now President Trump, and all of his aides who speak on his behalf have been insisting that since last year when these women started pouring out after the Access Hollywood tape came out and telling their stories. Obviously, the United States is going through a pretty huge cultural moment right now as it relates to sexual harassment. And Wolf, I do wonder, President of the United States, somebody in that role might have some thoughts on a sort of cultural phenomenon that's happening right now across the country. But as that question referenced, he's a pretty flawed messenger on that because he's faced some of these accusations. And so I wonder if he'll ever express his thoughts about this moment in time in America, about what these women are saying, or if he just wants to avoid the subject entirely, which I gather he does from Sarah Sanders' response.
Because it was a year ago that the Access Hollywood video came out, and these 16 women made these accusations of sexual harassment, intimidation by the then candidate. He said right after the election, at the time, he said he was going to sue all of these women. There have been no lawsuits filed since then.
No, there haven't. This is a president, when he was not president, threatened to sue many people and never followed through. But speaking of this specifically, it's not surprising to me that Sarah Sanders defended the president and doubled down on what they stand by, that he did not do this. But we can listen to a tape of the president saying he grabs women the way he wants to and that he kisses them without waiting. So they can defend him all they want, and they can say these things and shoot down certain claims. We can also listen to videos where the president himself talks about what he's done.
You know, it's interesting, David Axelrod, all of this was widely discussed during the campaign. He was the Republican nominee at the time that Access Hollywood video came out. He was still elected president of the United States.
Yeah, he sure was. And look, one thing we've learned about Donald Trump is there's no R on his gearbox there. He doesn't go in reverse. He only goes straight ahead. He doesn't acknowledge fault. He doesn't acknowledge failure. And he told us that he could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and his base would still stick with him. I think he feels pretty confident about that. So the fact that 16 women have attested to this, the fact that there's tape of him bragging about it, notwithstanding, I think he feels very comfortable that his people will stick with him. And as to David Chalian's point, I'm not sure that he's sitting over there at the White House saying, gee, I wish I had an opportunity to comment on this great cultural moment. I don't think that's what's on his mind right now. He thinks he has this base, and he's going to go straight ahead. And you look at the polls, David Chalian, very closely. That base is still with him.
It is. Look at just the recent polls that come out. He's still between 82 and 85% support among Republicans. It's not the most healthy, but it's a pretty healthy number. We have seen him hovering in this 37 to 40% range for months now. That seems to be a pretty solid floor below which he hasn't fallen in this presidency yet, despite independents fleeing him and having almost no support from Democrats.
They're pretty confident about that base over at the White House, Caitlin, aren't they?
They do seem pretty confident about it. That's something that they often appeal to when the president goes back to those campaign promises that he made. That's who he's looking for. But going back to David's point from earlier, I just want to say this, that the White House is the White House. The president is the president, and he has a very large platform, and they could have used that platform today to send a message of sensitivity to all these women coming forward, talking about men in power who have sexually assaulted them or harassed them. And they could have used that and still defended their boss, but also sent a message to these women that they should speak up when something like this happens, and they didn't do that.
Everybody stand by. There's more news we're following coming up. There's some tantalizing new clues about what top U.S. officials knew and guessed before and after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Why is President Trump keeping some of the most anticipated details, though, still secret? Plus, Defense Secretary James Mattis visits the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. Will his visit Or the upcoming trip by President Trump bring a new provocation by Kim Jong-un?